Hello, I'm Nina Melendez, and welcome to LinkedIn News Live, where the business conversation begins with you. Today, we're talking about our brains. They've taken a toll these past 15 months, dealing with stress, anxiety, and mental fog. And just when we thought we were nearing the end of COVID, a new strain has appeared. If you're finding it hard to focus, you're not alone. But my next guest has an antidote for you: exercise. And she's going to break down why it's so important and effective. Joining me now is Dr. Wendy Suzuki. She is a professor of neuroscience and psychology in the Center for Neuroscience at NYU. She's also the author of the book Healthy Brain, Happy Life, as well as the forthcoming book, Good Anxiety, Harnessing the Power of the Most Misunderstood Emotion. She received her undergraduate degree from UC Berkeley and her PhD from UC San Diego. Dr. Suzuki, welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be here, Nina.
It's so great to have you on the show. I want to start just a little broad, high level. When we're talking about a healthy brain, what exactly is it that we're talking about?
Well, for the most part, the things that you do to create a healthy body also create a healthy brain. A healthy brain is one that is that has good blood circulation. The brain is the number one user of oxygen in the whole body. It has good nutrition. It is strengthened by exercise, which is very surprising to most. In a certain sense, the brain can be thought of like a muscle. So working out your body is giving you bigger muscles, but it's also strengthening and even increasing the size of particular brain areas. So all of that go into the idea of having a healthy brain.
And can we just break down a little bit more about what you just said, about what exactly it is about exercise that promotes a healthy brain? So we know that if it's, physically, it helps us burn calories, it helps, with our heart rate. What about for your brain? How does that translate?
Yeah. Okay. So let me break down exactly what happens when you do a workout for your brain. So when you are working out, what happens is you are giving your brain a wonderful neurochemical, what I like to call bubble bath. So you are releasing all of these neurochemicals and growth factors in your brain. It's a great neurochemical bubble bath that includes things that you've heard of, like dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline. All of those neurotransmitters are giving you that good feeling, that rewarding feeling that happens even after a walk outside. But the growth factors that get put into this neurochemical bubble bath in the long term will actually help particular brain areas grow, get stronger, and work better. And I'm talking about one particular brain area called the hippocampus, critical for long-term memory. So a lot of great things are happening every single time you work out.
And the hippocampus is that area right at the forefront, correct? Like right behind your...
No, that's the prefrontal cortex. The hippocampus is the other one. You have one on each side, on the right and the left side. They are long. Actually, hippocampus means seahorse. They're seahorse-shaped structures that are critical for our ability to learn and retain new long-term memories for facts and events.
So what is there a specific exercise that, does walking count, does golf count, or does it what kind of exercise are you recommending and how often?
Yeah. So you come to the most popular question that I get, and people want to know, what is the minimum amount of exercise I need to do to get any of these great brain benefits? So let me break that down for you. So the answer will differ depending on your starting point. So the answer for an Olympic athlete will not be the same as the answer for somebody who is just starting their kind of physical workout journey. So let's start with the people that are just starting out. I've done studies in my lab with people that work out less than 30 minutes a week. And we asked, what is that workout that is going to change your brain function, improve your brain function? What we found is just 2 to 3 times a week of an aerobic workout, that is a workout that gets your heart rate up, can improve your mood, improve your focus, and improve your memory. So that's not very much. And you might think, oh gosh, I can't do, really hard workouts. Even walking can increase your heart rate. So what we know is some of the best and most pervasive brain improvements come with any workout that gets your heart rate up. And the good news is that if you haven't worked out very much, even kind of power walks can really get your heart rate up. An Olympic athlete would have to do much, much more to get their heart rate up. But when you get started, when you start out, even a walk can be a fantastic aerobic workout.
Dr. Suzuki, I want to say hi to some of the members who are joining us on the stream before we continue. We've got Juventino from Brazil, Deborah from Florida, Pam from California, and Jim from Iowa. Thank you so much for joining. And if you're new to the stream, right now we're speaking with Dr. Wendy Suzuki. She's a professor of neuroscience and psychology at NYU. So we're talking about exercise and the effects of exercise on the brain. Is there an optimal time of day to work out?
Yeah.
Yes, tell me.
Yeah. So my answer to that is, well, let me tell you the experiments that I did on myself that are also consistent with the research. And that is, I just told you that every single time you work out, you give your brain a neurochemical bubble bath that results in better mood, better focus, and better reaction times. That's what you get with every single workout. And so what you want is to do that workout at a moment right before you need your brain. For me, that is first thing in the morning, right before I use my brain to work. I happen to be a morning person where my best writing happens in the morning. So I wake up, I do a meditation, I do a 30 to 45 minute workout, and then I start working. However, if you are an afternoon person, evening person, the same principle is true. Work out right before you want to use your brain optimally. Maybe your brain works best at 5 o'clock. So do your 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock workout to prepare your brain for that best workout time that you know that you have.
So if you're talking about something, say, just like walking for some people can really help and increase brain function, I think of just the sedentary lifestyle that we live, especially for office workers, and we're staring at a computer screen all day. How do we offset that, or is there something you recommend that we do to sort of help us with focus if we're office workers?
Yeah, absolutely. So the good thing about offices is that they often have a big footprint, and so you can take the long way around to the break room, to the bathroom. You can take the stairs. That's a really good one to get your heart rate up. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Maybe you're on the 20th floor and you can't do that, but at least take the stairs for 1 or 2 stairs. Maybe you're working at home like I do, and so the thing that I do video workouts, but to kind of increase that aerobic workout, I have added a whole bunch of, I found that cleaning my bathroom can be very aerobic and, get me something that I want, which is a nice clean bathroom. Housework is really aerobic. So think broadly about how you can move your body, not just about what you do in spandex at the gym.
I'm laughing because I think of when I'm scrubbing my tub and I get up and I'm like out of breath and I'm like, oh, I'm out of shape. but it's good to know that I can help my brain function.
Workout. Have you ever cleaned your blinds? If you have to go and clean all those blinds, it's a fantastic arm workout. So it's like, I love double duty. And I also remind everybody of that scene in Mrs. Doubtfire, the vacuuming scene in Mrs. Doubtfire. You know what an aerobic workout Robin Williams was doing? And you can do that yourself in your living room right now.
So, Dr. Suzuki, is there anything that is particularly bad for our brain? What is the thing that we should absolutely avoid doing if we're really trying to keep our brains healthy and focused?
Yeah. Well, one of the most common things that in the long term is very bad for our brain is stress, and we all have had way too much of that because of our circumstances as a world over the last 15 months. What does stress do? Stress, and what I mean by stress is higher levels of the stress hormone cortisol. In short bouts, cortisol can be great. It activates us, it gets us to move, it increases our heart rate, it gets us ready to run. But if you have long-term increases in cortisol that anxiety, for example, can cause, that high level of cortisol in your brain can start to damage your brain cells. So brain cells have kind of input structures called dendrites that kind of look like the fingers of my hand. This is a cell body, and this is the output structure. So what stress can do is start to make those dendrites shrink and die. And eventually, too much stress can kill brain cells in that structure I mentioned before, the hippocampus, that is so important for memory, and that is enhanced. And in fact, new brain cells can grow if you do regular exercise. So exercise is a wonderful antidote for constant stress, anxiety that might come about because of a global pandemic, for example.
Wow, constant stress. I could have sworn you were going to say something like alcohol or staring at a screen too long, but stress is worse than, for example, a diet, some bad foods that one might eat.
That's bad too. We've all seen those documentaries about the guy that ate bad diet for 10 months and he completely ruined his health. That is bad. But I wanted to choose something that is top of mind for everybody. And also I choose this because this is something that we can choose to change. We can choose to have less stress in our life. And I can't help thinking about the wonderful examples that we just experienced together of Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles, who said, look, this stress in this professional athletic life is just too much. I need to prioritize my mental health. I need to decrease my anxiety. I am sitting this one out. And that is such a wonderful message that this is important, that you have the right to do that, and that your mental health is really, really important. So that's the other reason why I wanted to choose stress.
You bring up a really good point with Olympians. It does, and being able to excel in their sport is perhaps part stressful. If we exercise for our brain health, does it have to be enjoyable in order for it to be effective? Or
yes,
yeah,
that is a great point. So you could make almost anything stressful if you do it too much. If you're forced to do it. And so exercise is one of them. And there is, we call it a U-shaped curve. So there is that optimum exercise for your brain. That's the optimum that I'm always focused on. What is that level of exercise that is going to keep my hippocampus growing, keep my good neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin at its optimum? But if I go too far, if I get too obsessed with that exercise, it can become a stressor itself, and then it loses some of its beneficial qualities. So yes, it has to be. I mean, we all know that there is pushing that happens. There's effort happening when you are trying to get stronger and better. That is not the pain that I'm talking about. I'm talking about forced exercise, perhaps what happens in a bad Olympic training session when they're just going way too far. That level is definitely detrimental.
And I want to talk to you also about diet and impact of diet on the brain. Is there any foods or any sort of diet that you recommend for optimal brain health?
Yeah, so I recommend what the NIH studies suggest, which is the Mediterranean diet, that is low levels of red meats, higher levels of fish, lean meats, lots of veggies and fruits, has beneficial long-term health benefits, not only for your body, but for your brain. And this is a case where it's absolutely true that what is good for your body, that is that Mediterranean diet, keeping cholesterol low and processed sugars low, is not only good for your body, but also very good for your brain.
And it's good for my taste buds.
Yes, exactly. Tastes great too.
I want to say hi to some more members joining us from all over the world. We've got Jamal from Algeria, Jennifer from Pennsylvania, and Dawn from New Jersey. And I have a question here from Kushal. Kushal asks, is coffee or tea good for the brain?
That's great. So coffee and tea are stimulants, and that could help us, work optimally. But just like exercise, there's a U-shaped curve where there is a particular level of exercise that's optimal for your brain. There's also a particular level of caffeine stimulant, either coffee or tea, that is optimal for your brain. And the fact is, what that level is. If you start feeling those jitters that you can't focus anymore and you can't concentrate, you've gone too far. But certainly for many of us, it helps us wake up in the morning, gives us a little bit of a boost. But that is where I advocate self-experimentation to find that optimal level and just pay attention to how well is my brain working with this volume of coffee or tea.
Dr. Suzuki, we mentioned earlier discussing, it's a more sedentary lifestyle of many office workers. Yeah. I'm thinking specifically of screen staring. Have you found anything, or have you read anything, or anything in your research about the impacts on our brain of just staring at a screen for long periods of time?
Well, there are studies about just the sedentary behavior that requires to sit and stare at the screen. And that is very detrimental to our health. It's bad for the brain. And so there are different things that you can do immediately. And I've tried these myself, so I can absolutely recommend them. So one of the easiest things is to spend at least part of the day, many of us have these jobs where we have to stare at the screen, spend part of the day at a standing desk. Oh, I can't afford a standing desk. I use paper towels. Okay, there's my secret. I use 4 paper towels, put it under my laptop computer, and I stand up. And that is a great way. Find anything that works for your height. Maybe you're a lot taller than me and paper towels don't work. But at least part of the day. And I'll tell you, I tried all day standing up. That is a good workout for your legs. I had to work up to that. And that combined with regular breaks to go walk the stairs, go outside for a little break, can do wonders to reverse that sedentary pattern that is very easy to get in. Why? Because everybody else is so sedentary. But be the one in the office that says, hey, let's go out and let's take a quick walk and be back and just kind of refresh our brain, refresh our bodies.
I wanted to ask you about neurodegenerative diseases. Yeah. And we know there are no cures really for Alzheimer's or some of the other ones. How does exercise help sort of slow down the process of some of these diseases? Yeah.
So here is, if all of the listeners out there remember one thing, this is what I want you to remember, that exercise is stimulating the birth of brand new brain cells in the hippocampus. That is huge. There's only 2 brain areas in the entire adult brain where new brain cells can be born, and only 1 brain area where exercise can stimulate it, and that is the hippocampus. I want the biggest, fattest hippocampus I can so that my memories work better. And we know that it's not just getting bigger. When you exercise and increase the size of your hippocampus, the hippocampus works better. The other thing exercise does, if you are doing it regularly for the long term, giving your brain that bubble bath of neurochemicals, it stimulates the growth of new synapses in your prefrontal cortex. So this is why exercise helps with aging, because those 2 brain areas, the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus, are the 2 most susceptible to normal aging. There's loss of synapses in those 2 structures with aging, which is why we tend to forget things. We can't order our days as well. Decision making isn't as good depending on the prefrontal cortex. And they're also very susceptible to neurodegenerative disease states like dementia, which Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. So exercise is not curing dementia in any way, shape, or form. But what you're doing is you happen to be able to build up and strengthen the 2 brain areas that are most susceptible to dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So it takes longer for that disease to take hold if you happen to have it in your genome.
And you just mentioned actually decision making, which is huge. And I think it's for many professionals out there. What have you found in your research about how exercise impacts decision making?
So what we know is that exercise is very, very beneficial. Let me say it the other way around. The prefrontal cortex is one of the most exquisitely sensitive brain areas to exercise. It likes when you exercise, it works better. And so what happens is that even a single workout you can measure the beneficial effects on prefrontal function. And the most common function that the prefrontal cortex does that is helped by exercise is focus and attention, your ability to shift and focus your attention. Now, another function of the prefrontal cortex, which does a whole range of complex higher order things, is decision making. There have been few, if any, studies directly on the effects of exercise on decision making, but many studies showing better focus and attention. And focus and attention is part of a good decision making process. If you cannot focus on those steps that allow you to make that final decision, your decision isn't as good. But there is no direct studies on the effects of exercise on decision making.
I want to ask a question actually coming now from the stream from Claude. Claude wants to know if meditation helps with cortisol levels. You mentioned that you meditate every morning.
Yes.
Dr. Suzuki, tell us.
That's a great question, Claude, and the answer is absolutely yes. There have been studies done on novice people that come into meditation studies. They start a meditation program, and one of the most common findings, in fact, including findings from studies done in my own lab, is that even 12 minutes a day, very short meditations, guided meditations that are easy to do, 12 minutes a day for 8 weeks, have been shown to decrease stress responses, increase mood, and improve focus. So there are similarities between the effects of regular meditation practice and regular exercise practice. They're not identical. Of course, they are likely working through different mechanisms in the brain, but there are overlaps in terms of decreasing stress responses and increasing mood.
I've heard somewhere, and I don't know if this is like a myth or just one of those things that get tossed around, that we only use a very small percentage of our brain. And I thought I'd ask you this, as doesn't have much to do about exercise, but as a brain expert.
Absolutely.
Dr. Suzuki, is that true? Do we only use a small percentage of our brain on a daily basis?
I'm so glad you asked that question, Nina, because the answer is no. That is so false. That is one of the biggest myths in all of the ideas out there about the brain, that we only use a small percentage. It varies between 20 and 2% of your brain. But no, you can look at a simple scan of brain activity when people are just lying there with their eyes open. 70% of the brain has to do with processing visual information alone, let alone thinking, language. And so just looking at something is likely activating close to 70%. And you're doing a lot more when you're just laying there than just having your eyes and stimulating the visual system. So huge amounts of the brain are active most of the time. And don't ask me where that myth came from, but it's one of the easiest questions to answer. So I'm glad you asked me.
So I'm glad we cleared that up. You guys, you heard it here first. We use 100% of our brain. Most of us do, at least. COVID has completely upended all of our lives. For the past 15 months is all anyone can talk about. And mental fog is real. In fact, it's a symptom actually of some people who've had COVID.
Yes.
What can folks do to help alleviate this mental fog? Any specific exercises that are good for that? Yeah.
So mental fog is a deficit in prefrontal function. And one way you can alleviate that is get better on tests of focus and attention. So when you're foggy, you can't focus on things. And so it turns out we have very sensitive tests for focus and attention. And this is one of the most sensitive brain areas to exercise. So simply moving your body, including walking, can have a significant improvement in your focus and attention that will improve that brain fog. So this is one of the easiest things that you can do to start to address that, whether you've suffered from COVID or you're just suffering from being inside and not, seeing more of the world for the last 15 months. But again, moving your body, the same message. There are powerful effects of exercise and very, very sensitive for the prefrontal cortex immediately and for prefrontal cortex and hippocampus for the long term.
Dr. Suzuki, before I let you go, you recently wrote a book about anxiety called Good Anxiety. And my question is, what are the effects of exercise on alleviating anxiety?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my book, Good Anxiety, comes out on September 7th. Simon & Schuster, here's the cover right here. Really excited about that. But I have my favorite story about the effects of exercise on anxiety. Last August 2020, right before the weird school year, I was invited to give a lecture to a bunch of freshmen, and I had them take an anxiety test. And then I gave them a lecture on the effects of exercise on the brain. And then we all worked out together because I happened to be a certified exercise instructor. So we all got up, we all did this workout together, and then just 10 minutes. And then they all took the anxiety test again. And I said, if you take both tests, I'll give everybody the results together. And what I found is that before the exercise session, these students on average were almost at clinical anxiety levels. There was a lot of anxiety right before going into this, online school year. But that 10 minutes of exercise had decreased their anxiety scores by 15%. That put them in normal anxiety range from just a 10-minute activity. So does exercise address anxiety and decrease it? Absolutely. And that is one of my favorite examples to share.
Well, we're looking forward to having you on again when your book is released.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Suzuki, thanks so much for joining us today on the show. It was great to have you. Thank you for letting us pick your brain. We appreciate it. That was Dr. Suzuki. She's a professor of neuroscience and psychology at NYU. And she's also the author of the book, Healthy Brain, Happy Life. And here at LinkedIn News, we have a special treat for you all about the return to office. It will be hosted by Paul, and the 6-part series begins today.
America is back in business. As workplaces start returning to a new normal, we're hitting the road to find out what going back to work means for a diverse group of Americans. 6 episodes, 6 cities, 6 inspiring stories about when, where, and how we are going back to work. I'm Tamron Hall, and this is Reshuffle.
I'm Nina Melendez. Thanks so much for watching LinkedIn News Live.